I let your retracting punch lead me into it. Because I've got contact. When I'm here and you're retracting, I already know you're coming in because I've got hold of it. Now, some people think that's a really difficult skill to analyse in street fighting because it happens so fast. So I'm going to give you a scenario. You drive a car, yes? You all said you drive, most of you drive a car. Okay? You're driving in the winter. Okay? You drive in the winter, hit a patch of ice and everything, you feel it all go a bit light and you feel the wheels a bit light. So what you're telling me is through that big rubber thing that contacts on the floor, there's a steel metal thing that's inside it, down that steel column that goes underneath your car somewhere, along a big steel spinny thing, if it's rear wheel drive, that comes to the front of the engine somewhere, through a set of cogs and mechanics that comes up a metal pole into the cockpit, through this big metal leather covered round thing that you can feel your tyres go light, but you don't think through skin on skin that you could feel the person move. Really? See how it's not that difficult. You just feel it. You just get used to it and not fighting force with force. You just find a hold. Technical term. So, Chisao is just another piece of the puzzle, but you see how many times Bongsao is used. There. It pulls down there. And that brings me to the other point of Bongsao. So sometimes you will see Bongsao done from here. Okay, so I've spent all this time telling you, don't put your arms up. But what if your arms are up? Why does Bongsao work? Put your arms up. Bongsao works because if somebody wants to hit you, and there's a barrier here, you'll fall down. Bongsao's the answer. And the reason Bongsao's the answer, don't react, is if I pull down, it tells you something. Somebody grabs your arm and pulls your arm down, what's it tell you? What do you think?
It tells you trying to clear to attack.
Okay, what, how?
You can get a punch.
How? Where?
With the other hand.
Yeah, but where?
His face.
Oh,
high.
high.
High, yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull down to hit high. Because who the hell's going to do that? So if you feel your hand pulled down, there's a 99% certainty of pulling it down to go high. So I pull it up to go low. So when they pull it down, the problem you have is you can't use Tarn style with this hand, it's being controlled. I'm pulling that shoulder forward to take that arm out of the equation. So what do you cover with? So it's the only time that Bongsao works from high. It wouldn't work from no contact. If your hands are up, somebody wants to come flying in, it's one of the tools. Okay? Through Chisao, and a lot of practice here, what you learn is you make the point of contact, and Chisao's like chess. It gives you the chance to think ahead. So I always think of Chisao like fighting with time freezes. Fighting is bang, 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 bang. Wouldn't it be lovely in a fight if you could go, let's slow down time, let's make them slow motion so I've got more time to think. That's what Chisao does. You do a technique from here, boom, okay, and then you have the time to analyse it and go, oh, I could have gone there, oh, I could have gone there. It gives you a chance to think in spaces of gaps that won't always be there, but will be in the classroom. That's the beauty thing of the classroom, we stretch time. We make pauses last longer so we can analyse and learn, so we can then close the gaps later on when it's important. We turn the knowledge from the conscious thought into subconscious thought, so it becomes a reaction. So when you're in Chisao, to here, I'm always looking at what I can do. If I go to here, for example, and I'm going to do a bong lap, I'm feeling and seeing his hand turn, his arm turn up. Rather than going, oh, bugger, I should already be thinking of the next level. My hand's going forward, it's not committed, and I'm already thinking about, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to counter that arm. I'm going to pull it further down, make it hard for him to get his arm up. He might get his bong sow up, but when he lifts his bong sow, I know through practice the power's through his elbow, so I'm going to attack the elbow as he lifts it. I'm going to use it against him. So, there. So notice I'm not on the wrist anymore. Deliberately on the elbow, because if I can control the elbow, the bong sow can't lift. Whereas if I control the wrist, it can lift. So I changed my range. I went bong lap, change. And I changed that range. Okay, now in chi sow, it stops there. Okay, but in my head, everything's fighting. Okay, so in my head, I've now gouged his eye. I've now rotated his spinal column and moved his face backwards, which I don't do in chi sow. In chi sow, it looks like this. In a fight, it kind of starts there, goes into here, and comes into there, and comes from anywhere. And the nice thing about smashing his mandible upwards is when I now knee him in the bollocks, you can see where they've gone. Okay, so as they bypass his ears, you can see where they've gone from. But chi sow is not a fight. Chi sow is a learning environment, so it tends to stop at that point. Or if he defends it, it goes into the next place. If he defends it, it goes into the next place. If he defends it, it goes in. It carries on. Okay? So when I get up here, it's a constant flow of ideas. You don't get a chance to think. You're reacting. In my head, boom, that's a gouge in the eye. Okay? In chi sow, it's a little push. In my head, that's a gouge in the eye. It's my first strike. Okay? See where our foot's coming? It's come on the inside already. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do next. Okay? As he counters it, as he tries to counter it, I'm going to use his body posture against him. I'm already thinking about where my knee's going to apply itself. I'm going to come up here and take his knee joint out, or I'm going to come in and take his in here, or I'm going to punch him in his face, or I'm going to go for the windpipe so he can't breathe. In chi sow, it can go boom. That's all it tends to do. In a fight, I've already put my thumb in his ear, my finger in his eye, and I'm squeezing really hard. Okay, you know in Chum Q when you do this, people go, "Oh, you're relaxing your energy." Yes, you are. It looks like you're gouging him in the eye. Yeah, you're learning. Yes, you are. The only question you have when you do this movement here is, am I gouging in the eye and then ripping it out the eye socket? Or am I smashing in the mandible and riding into the eye? That's the only really query you should ever have. But as a movement, it becomes non-definitive. Okay? Because you don't want to decide it's a palm strike or it's a thumb strike. It has to be a tool. Because it's actually, well, that technique there. Just a simple high bridging hand called ding sow, okay, which hasn't decided what it is because there's a point of contact. If he disengages, it becomes a tool. It's a defensive tool, it becomes an offensive tool. If he pushes against it, it transcends into something very different because it has to. So I don't decide what I'm going to do. So I know I've said this to a few of you in the past and I don't run out of time. If you want to know the secret to Wing Chun, this is all you have to do. You can't film this. You can't film this because it's secret. The secret is to use the technique called ah. Now in Cantonese, when they put ah on the sound, the end, or ah sound, it becomes a question. It's not that far from us. So when you're training, the secret technique to use is called ah. So when he punches, I use a punch. Sometimes when I'm here, punch, and he throws a second punch, I use a tan sao. And occasionally, I will use a tan sao pak sao. In other words, I don't decide what the technique is until I'm presented with it. Think of his attack as a question, and I'll come up with the appropriate answer. Don't think, oh, I did bong sao last week, I'm going to use bong sao, because you've used it for all the wrong reasons. It's a tool set. It's a bit like a Swiss Army knife. There's stuff in there that's really useful, and there's stuff in there that's really... Have anybody ever had one of the old Swiss Army knives? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Do you ever open them all up? Mm-hmm. You found that spike?
Yeah.
You ever wonder what that is? That is the tool that is going to get you laid. It's a get you laid tool. Because one day, one person is going to be walking around the corner and there's going to be a naked lady on a lame horse. Let's all get the stone out, love. Oh, welcome. Yeah. Thank you very much. Get your laid tool. It's about as much use for anything else as I can find. So, you know, keep your knife with you all the time, that's what I say. Every tool has a purpose, you know. Don't be very limited. There's a saying that if all you have in your hand is a hammer, everything looks like a fucking nail. Don't ask it. Don't decide. Wing Chun is a flexible tool. Wing Chun is the tool that you use. You must not be a slave to the system. Don't let it tell you, or your instructor tell you how you can and cannot use the tool. Let your instructor tell you how to develop that tool, its pros and its cons, and then go and explore them. Everything has a benefit. Everything has a weakness. So show me Tan Sao. In fact, no, I'll use. Show me Tan Sao. That's quite tall. Excellent. Okay, so Tan Sao is here.